I remember the first time I saw the basketball team practicing in the gym. The noise of the bouncing balls, the swish of the net, the fast rhythmic movements, it all filled me with a mix of awe and jealousy. I was a sophomore in high school, and despite loving basketball, I was nowhere near good enough to make the team. My friends would go on about how amazing it would be to wear the school colors, to represent our school in a sport I loved, but for me, it felt like a dream that belonged to someone else. I'd been playing basketball for years, but in my small town, everyone knew who the good players were. There was no hiding talent or skill in a place like this. The guys who made the team were the ones who stood out. They were strong, fast, and had skills that made you believe they were born to play. Me? I was just average. Too slow, too small, not enough muscle to compete with the bigger guys. I'd spent countless hours at the gym trying to work on my game, but it never felt like it was enough. Every time the season came around, I'd try out, and every time I was told I wasn't quite there. It was during one of these tryouts that I overheard a conversation between some of the players. They were talking about how one of the seniors had bulked up over the summer, gained about 20 pounds of muscle, and was now unstoppable. He was already one of the best players, but this transformation made him a whole new animal on the court. The guys were all praising his new physique, and I listened in, my curiosity piqued. "You gotta do what you gotta do," one of them said. "It's how the game works if you want to get to the next level. It's not just about being good anymore." That's when I heard it. Steroids. I didn't know much about them at the time, only that they were illegal and dangerous. But hearing them mentioned so casually, it was like a seed was planted in my mind. I went home that night, and the thought gnawed at me. The idea of taking steroids felt like a moral line I wasn't sure I was willing to cross. But at the same time, the dream of being on that team, of proving I belonged, consumed me. I was tired of being the kid who sat on the sidelines, who didn't make the cut. I wanted to be one of them, one of the guys who dominated the game. I wanted that strength, that speed, that confidence. I started doing research, diving into forums and websites where people discussed performance-enhancing drugs. I read all the pros and cons, heard stories about people who took them and had their lives change. Some people claimed that steroids helped them reach their full potential, while others warned of the long-term consequences. But as the days passed, my desire to improve outweighed my concerns. I wasn't going to take them forever, just long enough to make the team, just long enough to prove myself. Eventually, I found a guy, a friend of a friend, who could get me what I needed. I remember the first time I picked up the vials. It felt like I was stepping into a new world, a world where the stakes were high and the risks were just part of the game. He told me how to inject it, where to do it, and how often. The first shot felt strange, like something was off, but as soon as the needle went in, I could feel a surge inside me. It was subtle at first, just a slight increase in energy, a bit more intensity in my workouts. But that was enough. That was all I needed. The next few weeks were a blur of training, feeling stronger with each passing day. My muscles grew, my body filled out, and the workouts that used to leave me exhausted now felt like nothing. I could push myself harder, faster. My game improved too. I was dunking in practice, making shots I'd never dreamed of before. My teammates started noticing, and it felt like the door to the team was finally opening for me. When tryouts came around, I was ready. I could feel the difference in my body. I felt powerful, confident. I was no longer the weak kid who couldn't keep up. I was one of the best on the court. My movements were smoother, faster, more controlled. When it was my turn to scrimmage, I dominated. I could see the coach's eyes on me, watching closely, impressed with what I was doing. It wasn't long before I got the call. I made the team. I remember the feeling of walking into the locker room with the team for the first time. The other guys slapped me on the back, welcoming me like I was one of them. For the first time in my life, I felt like I belonged. The weight of the success, of finally achieving something I dreamed of for so long, hit me. I'd done it. But deep down, a small part of me felt uneasy. It was like there was a shadow hanging over the victory, something I couldn't shake. As the season went on, things only got better. I was playing at a level I'd never thought possible, Despite the side effects, I do not regret my decision. I finally felt acknowledged, I became extremely popular, and a lot of girls started throwing themselves at me.